long last, I am finally covering the fourth part of the JoJo animes produced by David Productions. And it sure has been an interesting journey so far on this show, hasn't it? Part 1 was okay, Part 2 is really good, Part 3 had some good ideas, but the pacing and other issues made it an overall okay continuation to the JoJo series. But now we're entering the era where Araki stops making muscle-bound, tall-as-hell main leads in favor of slimmer and average-sized characters, introducing even crazier and weirder ideas / stands than before, and also begins the era of which stand name is better, since it's around this point where more and more stand names are directly named from artists / songs, which, yeah, that went over super well in the English release. So before David Productions takes the series to Italy, let's take a look at JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 4, Diamond is Unbreakable. So 10 years after Stardust Crusaders ended, Jotaro Kujo, Part 3's protagonist, travels to the town of Morio to stop an escaped serial killer, but is also there for another reason. See, Jotaro isn't the protagonist for this part as well, but rather his uncle is. And he has also arrived to tell him about his future inheritance. But as time goes on, specifically the halfway point, they discover that a murderer is living in the town of Morio and has been killing for 15 years, so they have to work together to stop him and save the town with the uncle of Jotaro, Josuke Higashikata, as well as 2 friends they make along the way, Koichi and Okuyasu. Oh, and Joseph is also there. Yay! But wait, those 3 are teenagers. Yep, so this is where it gets messy. See, Josuke Higashikata is the son of Joseph Joestar.
Huh. Thought you would have been more pissed that someone cheated on his wife.
Oh, trust me, I am. But instead of shouting about it, I have something else to take my mind off it.
And that is...
But, yeah, while the story may not be as complex or filled with as many stakes as Part 3, I still like Part 4's story, and unlike Part 3, it was able to keep my interest throughout the entire 39-episode run. What probably helped keep my interest in Part 4 was the overall growth of the main cast, which was something Part 3 didn't have much of. Josuke started off Part 4 as a regular teenager just trying to live a normal teenage life, but as the series went on, he expanded his circle of friends, he began to take a more active role when he absolutely needed to, and by the end, he was able to fight off the serial killer that plagued Morio for over a decade and was one of the reasons the serial killer was finally stopped. Okuyasu started off as a dependent lackey to a stronger, more confident brother, but as time went on, he developed a friendship with people like Josuke, he slowly began to gain more confidence / independence, and by the end of his journey, he finally decided to stop relying on his brother and become his own person. And that's great. Still kinda salty though that at the end Tonio's cooking / stand couldn't restore his father back to normal. I mean, come on, let the guy be happy, especially since his son was such a good boy in the end.
Nah, I could do it the whole time. I just like to fuck with people whose friends like to fuck with my business.
Also, gotta say, I like Tonio's introduction episode in the anime because it did a good job with the fake out and it was just genuinely funny. Like others, I thought he would be an enemy or just killing people and turning them into dishes, but nope. He's just a nice guy that uses his stand and not human remains to make the dishes greater. And I can appreciate twists like that, especially since the early bits of Part 4 and most of Part 3 had most of the stand users be evil for their introduction and stayed that way. Joseph and Jotaro admittedly don't get as much growth as the others since their growth was becoming closer to Josuke and helping them out from time to time, but it's still growth that I can appreciate. Koichi started off as a weak and very cowardly person, but as time went on, he began to gain more confidence in himself as well as got stronger, and this was most evidently shown by the growth of his stand, Echoes. Starting off as an egg, all the way up to being a humanoid man with the power to increase the weight of its target with a punch, basically freezing the target in place, basically signifying how strong both the stand and Koichi have become over the course of Part 4. And for the record, his development is probably my favorite out of the Part 4 characters. And even the final enemy of Part 4, aka the serial killer Yoshikage Kira, goes through some changes as the part went on, starting off as a guy who killed a lot of people, but kept up a huge facade as an unimportant person who's easy to blend into society so that he couldn't get spotted easily, to someone who would go so far as to create a time loop in order to prevent getting caught for all the things he did, with the original facade he made for himself pretty much broken by the end of it. Now obviously there is a lot more of these characters than what I just described, especially when it comes to Kira, but the point I'm trying to make here is that there was a lot of good growth when it comes to the characters of the series, especially when compared to Part 3, and that helped keep my interest while watching Part 4 on top of having a good story, characters, and especially world building. While yes, this part is restricted to mainly one town, Part 4 does a good job establishing how big / interesting the town of Morio, and by extension the citizens of Morio are, and why they're important in the story. Yes, other parts have tried to world build as well, but compared to part 4, I feel that this part blows them out of the water in terms of depth and intrigue. We get a lot about its past, the landmarks, and by extension their history. While it'd be hyperbolic to say that it feels like a real town, I do appreciate that this part did a good job making a place like Mario interesting enough to be the main place for the entirety of part 4. I can also give a compliment to the characters here because, unlike part 3, a lot of the characters in this part, both main and secondary, are characters I was actually interested in outside of the growth I previously mentioned. Josuke and Okuyasu are big freaking dorks throughout this part as time goes on, but you know what? I still like these dorks, and they make me smile when I see them do shit on screen. Seriously, this is great. I love it. I like Koichi's character arc, and seeing his great interactions with the other characters as well as getting more confidence and strength made him one of my favorite characters in the part. Hell, even the characters who start off as villains, or to an extent, antagonists, get development for the most part throughout the show, and even those that don't are interesting enough on their own most of the time, i.e. Tonio and his stand Pearl Jam. And yes, I'm calling it Pearl Jam because Pearl Jam sounds amazing, while Pearl Jam sounds like something they sell in the adult toy section. I mean, what's next? Flashing Diamond, the Fap Hand, Magician's Red Rocket? Special thanks to those on Twitter for the names, by the way. I really appreciate it. And of course, there's Kira Yoshikage, who I really liked as a villain. Unlike Cars and Dio, Kira doesn't want to rule the world or anything, he just wants to live a normal life, while also killing people because, well, he's a serial killer. And he's pretty damn good at it, as well as blending into regular society, that it's genuinely creepy. So, yeah, it's very messed up, but at the same time, he did manage to intimidate me as a viewer while watching this part because, yeah, he is scary. Something that a certain edgelord couldn't do in 5 volumes.
I took a teenager's arm, potentially the queen of the furnaces. Oh, that's cute. I have hundreds.
Hell, even the totally not a self-insert Rohan is pretty good as a character in terms of both personality and writing, and that's usually something I dread, because this is something people can easily screw up because, well, some of us love ourselves a little too much. But it would be silly enough to make a self-insert on, say, this show, let alone have alternate versions of that. That would be silly. And on that note, let's talk visuals, because needless to say, I really like this art style. Sure, it's not as well detailed or puzzle piecey, if that's a word, I'm using that word anyways, as the other parts, but I still kind of like it because it's colorful, it's appealing to the eye, and it further helps contrast this part from the first 3, which I can definitely appreciate. Ugh, I need some music to clear my mind of that thought. And thankfully, part 4 has that in spades. I like the background music, like Josuke's theme, the softer and slower remix of Jotaro's theme, and of course Kira's theme. But if you were to ask me, my favorite part about the soundtrack is definitely the openings. Crazy Noisy Bizarre Town, Chase, Great Days. These are all songs that took a while to get used to, but once I did, it was hard for me to get them out of my head because they were all really great to listen to on their own, and especially with the visuals. And like always, both the English and Japanese versions turn in a great performance, so not much to say on that one, except noting the recent passing of Joseph's Japanese voice actor Unsho Ishizuka. Ishizuka was a great voice actor who played several roles in anime and Japanese dubs of cartoons and the like for decades, and he'll be missed. Especially if you watch the sub versions of the show he was a VA in, like this one. But on that note, I think it's time to wrap this up. Overall, Diamond is Unbreakable was a lot of fun from start to finish, and I would happily rewatch this again despite having a lot of episodes because of how much I enjoyed it. Is it the best part? Yes, this is absolutely my favorite of the 4 parts I've seen thus far. So if you haven't seen JoJo and don't care about continuity or spoilers, this is a part I highly recommend. Frankly though, I'm just happy to finally see something good after all the garbage I've had to sit through lately, so yeah, because that shit can drain someone. So with all that said, I'm David Grimm, and thanks for watching. Maybe I should do a viewer's request marathon next. It would be interesting to see what the fans want me to cover, or see what they enjoy.
Not so fast. You said that those past things you reviewed trained you?
Yeah.
Oh my god, you've gotten soft then, David. Time to fix that. I have with me 4 movies listed by an internet website as the worst anime movies ever made. If you can tackle all 4 of these and survive, then we'll see if you still got the edge to turn into these things, and also do that little marathon of yours.
That is so fucking stupid I can't even list the ways. But alright, fine.
Alright, so begins the Macabre May Marathon.
You did that on purpose.